object-oriented programming methods in Java. So we are talking about functions, operation methods. When we are talking about object-oriented programming and Java, we are basically talking about the same thing. Function is a logical group of commands. So and in object-oriented programming languages, the functions are within a class and they are thus operation or methods. This is especially true with Java. If you were programming with, let's say, C++ or PHP, you could have functions outside of a class, but in Java, all the functions, methods are inside some class. Function is a reusable code, so you write it once and you can use it as many times as you want. So if we are using a function, let's say we want to print something to the screen, so we can use this system out println function as many times as we want to, and we do not need to write it again. So it's a reusable code. So the benefits of using functions or methods is that they are reusable. It makes the abstraction easier, reduces complexity, and reduces the length of code. So we can have a code in smaller pieces and build it piece by piece. Then about the visibility of variables. So variables within a method are only visible within the method. So in this example here on the right, the method A doesn't see this myInt, which is defined in method B. It's a complete block that doesn't show outside. Similarly, method B cannot see this mychar variable that is defined in method A. So there needs to be a way to send information to a method, and there needs to be a way to receive information from the method. What could it be? So here is a simple definition of a Java function called getLetter, and this getLetter is the name of the method. Then there is a return type. So type of the return value, what is this getLetter returning? So it's returning only one character, so the return value type is char. Then there is visibility of the method. This method is public, so it can be used inside the class or other objects can use this method. So it's public. It is visible to all. And there are two parameters. There are their names, name and index. And then there are types of these parameters. Name is string and index is integer value. So this is the basic structure of any method you will have in your programs, and the methods are inside classes. So the type of the return value, so we know that the method has to return something. If it doesn't return anything, then the type is void. So if we have a method that is only, let's say, printing something, then we are defining that the return value is void, so we are not expecting the method to return anything. So for example, this system out println, it's only printing. We are not using any return value, we are just printing text. And if something is returned, then the type needs to correspond to the value. So we could have something like these methods. Let's say we have a method called average. So we are probably calculating some average of some numbers. So we are probably returning double or float values. So it's a decimal number because averages usually are decimal numbers. So the return value is probably double or float. They are both fine. getLetter grade, it's probably returning us some kind of a character. Are you asleep? Yes, no. So the return value is Boolean. So there can be only true, false. values. Get GPA. Okay, we are getting some kind of a number, probably double or float is pretty much here suitable. Print menu, it's definitely going to print something to the screen, so it's might be the case that it's not returning anything, so void is suitable for the type for the return value. Get student name. Names are usually presented with letters, so the return value is string. It can be a character if your name is only one character, but it's usually string because the names tend to have more than one letters. And then if we have a method called getStudent, then we are getting the actual student, so the return value is probably the object student from student class, so the return value is type of the return value is student. How to name a method? So same rules as in naming a variable. The name of a method can be basically anything except a reserved word like float or double. They are reserved for variable types, so they cannot be used as a function or method name. The name cannot start with a number. It cannot have any symbols except underscore and this $sign. So you cannot have, let's say, hash there or brackets or anything like that, or euro symbol or less than or any other symbol. And the name of the method should start with a lowercase letter. So we are using this camel case way. So if there is more than one word in the method name, so start with a lowercase and then every word start with an uppercase letter. So for example, this is an example method where I, A, E, and M are uppercase letters and the rest is lowercase. And you cannot define the new method within a method. So if you have a method, you cannot define another inside, but you can of course call another method that is somewhere else in the class. And as said, methods don't see variables from other methods, so they can use the methods defined in the class member variables, but they cannot see the methods inside another class. Not a method. And of course, when you are in industry, companies, frameworks, and libraries have their own style guides, which you should of course follow. So this, if they are not using this camel case, this is an example method, then you should follow the method those companies, for example, have. Function overloading. So you can do multiple versions of the same method. For example, you can have a int method x, which is taking integer parameter, and you can have the same name for the method x, which is taking a float variable as a parameter. So these versions differ in the type and or number of parameters. So we would have third method x, which is taking string and float as a parameter. Return values can be the same or different type, but you cannot use only difference cannot be the return value. Then the compiler does not understand which method you are calling. But when you have different parameters, different type or number of parameters, then the compiler knows to choose the correct method based on the parameters. And let's have an example on this. Okay, so let's build a program that utilizes this function or method overloading. Let's start by creating a new project. Yeah, Java project with NetBeans. You can use Visual Studio Code or Eclipse or any other if you wish. Let's call this Starbase. So now we have our Starbase here. Let's build a new class called main. And then we will need to have a second class called rocket. And with these we can live. And then we will need this public static void main here where our program is running. So we are needing to take input from the user. So let's have a scanner object which is using system in. So we are reading from keyboard like this, and now it's saying us that we don't have this class here, but now we have when we have imported. And then we need to have a rocket. So let's build a rocket. And the idea is that we can have a rocket and we can have something inside this rocket, that being astronauts and cargo. So let's go. This rocket could have a name. It could be like Falcon 9 or Long March 9 or Starship or Saturn 5 or whatever. And it will have a set. It will have some kind of a cargo. And in this case we only have strings as a cargo and astronauts. So it's just simple strings. Like this. And now we need to import those array lists. Yeah, so this is our cargo, and similarly we will have astronauts like this. And then we will need to have some kind of a size for, so this rocket cannot have infinite number of astronauts or millions of tons of cargo. So let's have a so we have a max size for cargo and max number of astronauts. And these variables are final, so they cannot be changed. They are constants. But I am not setting any value right here. I'm setting the value in constructor. So this rocket will have a constructor. And now let's put values to these variables here. So it can have 100 something as a cargo and let's say 6 astronauts. Let's say 4 astronauts is the maximum number. So this is our basic rocket. But now we would like to have some kind of a method to set those astronauts, to get those astronauts, and also the same with cargo. So let's start by providing a method. This is public method, it's not returning anything, so we are setting an astronaut. We could actually add astronaut. So this is a setter, although it has add instead of set command here. And we don't have any astronaut class, so we are just giving a string as an astronaut, so we will have a name for these astronauts. And now, as we have this maximum number of astronauts, so we first need to check that if there is still room. So if the astronauts array list size is less than this maximum number of astronauts. If that's true, then we can have add new astronauts there. So then we add this astronaut here. Otherwise, we should definitely have some kind of error, but as we do not have any error handling right now, we don't know how to do it, we can skip that part. But then we will need this get astronaut part. So let's modify another function. So we are just getting an astronaut out of the rocket. So it's providing us a string. So we need to return something. And first we need to check that if there isn't anything in the astronaut list. So if this is larger than 0, then we will have some kind of a return clause. So we are now returning astronaut, and we will remove the astronaut from the list. So we are providing one astronaut out of this astronaut array list to the caller object, and then the array list will be one astronaut shorter. If there is no astronauts, then we will return error. And now if we have an astronaut called error, then this will not work, but in this example this is enough. Then we can have a method called get number of astronauts. So it's just providing an integer value, how many astronauts we have. So we are returning this astronaut size. Very simple. And then let's add this similar, actually not that, yeah, we can actually have this one too. Let's copy paste this and build this into the cargo. So here is the starting point. So we are adding cargo, and it's of course also string here, and now we are using this max size of cargo, and we are using cargo. And now we are using a similar variable name. So this cargo is the member variable, and this cargo without this keyword is the cargo provided here is as a parameter. Then we will have a method to get some cargo. And once again here, if the cargo size is bigger than 0, then we can return some cargo. And get number of get amount of cargo, and we are returning cargo size. So now we can add astronauts and add cargo, and get astronauts and get cargo, and check how big is this. So let's see. Now we have the rocket built, and then we can ask that, hey, give us some astronauts. So add an astronaut, and then string variable astronaut. We use this scanner. We get next line, which is giving us the user input, and then we can use this rocket. And we can add astronaut, and now there is this astronaut, so this is completely fine. And then it would be nice if we have some kind of a method to list all the things that is inside this rocket. So let's build that one. So let's just print public void print information. This rocket has the following astronauts. They can be cosmonauts or tigonauts or any other also, but I'm just calling them astronauts here. And when we have also this cargo and the following cargo. And then we just need to go through this array list here and here, so we can use this for loop as a for each loop. So we are using a variable string s, and we are going through a collection called astronauts here, and then we will just print out all the astronauts which are in this variable s, like this. Okay, and the same with the cargo. Here we have a cargo, and it should work. Okay, then let's use that method print information. And now we could actually run this program. I have been writing code, but I haven't run the project. So let's see what happens. So let's add an astronaut. I will add myself. And now the rocket has the following astronauts: me and no cargo. Very good, it's working. And then we could just check that we have been adding this astronaut to the rocket. Then we can get the astronaut out of the rocket. So we have this string astronaut. So let's use it. Rocket get astronaut. Now this variable has the astronaut, but we can now print, and then we can print this one. Let's see what happens. Once again, I'm adding myself. So now here we have me as an astronaut, no cargo. Then we are getting the astronaut out of the rocket. So then there is no astronauts and no cargo. And then we just print out the astronauts that we took out of the rocket, and that's me. It's working. Let's continue. What if we had several astronauts in the rocket? Let's see. Let's add Mike, Jan, and me. And we could also add some cargo. Satellite A, satellite B, spy satellite, and maybe even some space nuke. I hope that no one is putting nuclear devices into space. And then we can print out what is inside the rocket. Let's see. So now in the end, I'm putting there several astronauts, and then the rocket knows those astronauts, and they know what kind of a cargo there is. So very good. And we could actually close this this scanner in the end of the program. Okay, now we have a rocket that can have astronauts and cargo. Let's make it so that it can launch, so we can shoot for stars. And now let's first build a method called launch. We are taking no parameters, we are not returning anything. So, and now we can then print out something. Let's call this a test launch. Like this. So we can launch it like this, and now I'm commenting out these few lines here. We don't need these anymore. Let's go only with this latter part of the program. So rocket has been test launched. How do we get it actually launched? I mean that now anyone could launch it just by calling this, and it would be a disaster, so it would be too easy to launch the program. So let's create another launch, and here is a boolean value real deal. And there is no reason to launch the rocket if there is no cargo or no astronauts. So let's first check that if this real deal actually is true, and cargo, and cargo is not cargo is not empty, and or astronauts is empty. So like this, and it should be like this. So we are checking that this launch is real, and then that the cargo is not empty, and astronauts is not empty. After that, we can do the successful launch. Otherwise, if this is not true, then we can just comment that cannot launch empty rocket, or you were not serious. Like this. Actually, let's modify it a bit. Let's take this out of here. So if real deal, and then this could be here. First part of the if clause. So if this is not real deal, so the user has forgotten that it was supposed to have this true variable here, then we can just call this test launch like this. Now it's calling this method. Let's see. So rocket launch, then if we launch it with true, so there was first there was a test launch, and then the rocket has been launched successfully. So let's try to launch before we put anything into it. So it says that cannot launch empty rockets. Then we put some stuff into rocket, and then we can do test launch, and then we can launch it successfully. Yeah. Now our launching is working, and we are using the same method with the same name. Only difference that in this case we have a Boolean parameter, and if it's true, then we are doing the real launch like this one. And the compiler knows which launch method we are calling here. Similarly, we could use, for example, we can add a cargo when it's just a string, but let's do another method here, which is not adding a string, but it's adding a array list of strings, like this one. And then we check that the cargo size is smaller. We could actually say that we are checking that if this cargo size plus this new cargo size is smaller than the max size of cargo, then we can add this cargo. But we cannot use the add method because we are using, this is an array list now. Here this is a string, but here is cargo. Let's have a volume of cargo. Now it's a bigger. Oh, let's have a just lots of cargo. Yeah, this is okay. So lots of cargo, and we are adding lots of cargo, and this add does not work, but these array lists have a method called add all, and now it's adding lots of cargo here. So we can then use that one and build a array list here, a string, like this. Yeah. And let's add something here. So space plane and what else we could put into space? Tesla Model S, and let's put something else. I don't know. Pepsi Max can. So one can of Pepsi Max, space plane, and Tesla Model S are now going to space, and let's then add this. So we can use rocket add cargo array list. Let's see, maybe this is working or not. So now it has a lot of cargo, and we could use the same add cargo method name. Here we are giving a string, and here we are giving a array list to the rocket, and then the rocket itself compiler knows that if it's calling this one or this one, which method is okay. So this is a simple demonstration of using this method overloading. And then we have, of course, recursive methods. So method can call itself. That is called recursion. And well, it's not a topic of object-oriented programming, but of course you can have recursive methods in Java too. That is definitely possible. So it's used in the situation where the parameters of the method are used in the same way as the result of the method. If we are counting Fibonacci numbers or doing some algorithmic designing, then recursive methods are important. On this course, you just have to know that they exist and you can have them in Java. And make sure if you are building a recursion, then make sure that it ends at some point. Recursion can be infinite, which in the end will eat all the resources, all the calculation power and memory of your computer, and then something will crash. But if you develop and design the function well, then there is some end point. And as a conclusion, Java has methods. They are similar to C++ or Python. Those languages have methods. Java has methods. They are inside classes and usually used through object. And main is of course an exception. So every Java program has main method. It's a static method that just has to be there. Methods can be overloaded as seen in the example. And methods represents the work what object can do. So basically method can be something like print, walk, remove, connect, whatever the object is about to do, then you are creating a method for that.